to our end of year transcript training session. We really are presenting this to you today, and we want to thank everybody that's involved in this. But it's really about your schools, your students, and trying to make the experience the best it can be for them. We want to do what we can with the technology that we have available to us and make the transition smooth from high school to colleges. And today we have some folks with us. We've got Monica here from Parchment and Raquel. We've got Jenny Sawyer from University of Louisville, and we want her to kind of go into a little bit about, the expectations and the importance on the post-secondary side for the transcripts. We also have Infinite Campus. Tony's here, and we've got Mike Mock out there. So we will be prepared for questions on that end. And nobody really wants to hear from me for too long, so I'm going to start off by just saying thank you on behalf of your students for being here today. And also, I want to say that if you do need EDLA credit and you have not registered, the registration is still open, so you can go ahead and register. You'll get a survey after this session's over, and you'll take the survey, and the ELA, wait about a week before the ELA credit comes out, but I will repeat that at the end. But thanks to everybody that put this together. And I really want to start off by turning it over to Jenny Sawyer. Jenny is the director, executive director of admissions for the University of Louisville. Is that still right, Jenny?
That is right.
All right. So she, her office works with the transcripts you send all the time. So I think it's important to understand that perspective and to also understand that the post-secondary transcripts are important at that level. I mean, not post-secondary transcripts. The high school transcripts are important to the post-secondary schools, and they fund a whole lot of this transcript costs. So when we say the transcripts are free to your students, they're not free to the post-secondary schools and KDE to some degree too. We're funding that so that we can subsidize the transcripts for your students, and that subsidy lasts through the end of August. So August 30th is kind of the last day to get a free transcript. So make sure your graduating seniors have processed early. So Jenny, I'm going to turn it over to you from here.
Yeah, thank you so much for including me today. And my goal today for the high school folks on the call is really just to give you a little perspective of some of the issues we deal with, why the high school transcript is so important to us, and how we can all work better to help students when they're going through that transition period of maybe in the summer, like they're not listening to their high schools anymore, and because school hasn't started, they're not listening to their colleges. So it's a really hard time to get them to take care of business. But we are required by the federal government for any student who is receiving federal dollars, whether or not that be a Pell Grant, a CAP grant, loans, any type of aid, to have a final high school transcript on file. There are different interpretations that different financial aid offices take. We take a rather strict interpretation here at the University of Louisville, and that is that we want a final high school transcript on file verifying high school graduation by the time we disperse their money to them. The last thing we want, and we've had this happen a couple times, is for a student who was just embarrassed to tell someone that they did not graduate from high school. They come on our campus, they start taking classes, they run up a bill, they move into a residence hall, and then have to have that really tough conversation with them that, we don't have a final high school transcript, not because of a procedural thing of it just not getting here, but because you actually didn't graduate from high school. And so we have gone and we also would like to finish up all their business on their admissions application before they actually start classes in the fall. So then their focus is just on things as a new University of Louisville student. So the biggest issue that we have, is that we get transcripts that have 12th grade grades on them, but do not have a graduation date. And I know later in the presentation, they're going to talk to you all a little bit about that. But as you can imagine, when we reach back out to that student to say we don't have the transcript, they're like, oh, but I sent that, right? And so we spend a lot of time back and forth. Now, we are very proud to say last year we started the semester with 0 missing final high school transcripts. But that involved a lot of work on our team's part to do that. And we really appreciate you taking the time to see what we can do to make that part smoother. And we really appreciate the work that KDE and the work that Parchment is doing to improve that transition. What we're trying to really do is we did a lot of focus groups this past year with students, is to really make that transition period from high school to college as barrier-free as possible. And to really think about how we can better communicate with students so that they do take care of business and they understand how to take care of business simply. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Parchment. We are going live today with a new product that Parchment has that allows us to use AI to automatically import actual course data off of PDFs of transcripts. And we are using that first with our dual credit transcripts. And we have 15 students brought their dual credit transcripts with them to orientation this morning, official copies. Normally it would take us about 30 minutes to put all of that coursework on their transcripts, and it's taking us about 30 seconds. So Parchment, thank you very much for your partnership with Smart Panda and Raptor to bring that new technology. And one of the challenges about technology is as we continue to try and use it to improve our student experience, it's changing so fast that sometimes it's hard for all of us with so many things on our plates to keep up and keep that going correctly. So I do understand the struggles that we're having, but I just want to say thank you and help you understand that this is something that would allow us to focus on other matters, improving the student experience.
Thank you very much, Jenny. We also have Amanda Ellis, from the Council on Post-Secondary Education. Amanda, would you like to say anything? Put her on the spot. Maybe not. Sorry about that. So I just want to, transition now. We're going to transition to the meat of the presentation. I want to thank Jenny once again. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to stick around with us or not. I'm going to watch for the rest of training, but we do appreciate Jenny. I will say Jenny was one of the first people to pick up the phone, and when I said, years ago, hey, do you think we should do something in Kentucky? What about electronic transcript? She's like, I'm there. And she has been supportive since, what was that, 2010 or 2011? That was a long time ago, wasn't it? So she's been a champion for electronic transcripts all these years. And I know there's a lot of conversations about how to improve the college, admissions experience. And this is an area that we have an opportunity to help improve through the technology that we have through transcripts. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to Monica and let her take over and let us go through the training.
Thank you, Dee Dee, and thank you, Jenny. So to get started, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Just a quick housekeeping item. When you joined the session, your phone line was automatically muted, so you'll be able to hear us, but we won't be able to hear you. If you do have any questions, please use the Q&A chat at the top of your screen, and this will help us keep track of all the questions that come in today. We do have some members from our team monitoring the chat as well, and that way we can just capture everything and make sure your questions get answered. So my name is Monica, and I am the Customer Success Manager at Parchment, and I work with schools and districts across the state of Kentucky. I'll be leading today's final transcript webinar, and I want to thank you for taking the time to be here. This session is designed to help you prepare for end-of-year transcripts, which I know we're in the thick of right now. Our goal is to make sure that you leave feeling confident and well-equipped with best practices, tips, and clear communication strategies to help you support students during this very busy time of year. So here's a quick overview of today's agenda. We'll begin with introductions from both Parchment and Infinite Campus. So we're here to support you in making sure the final transcript process is as smooth as possible for students and staff. And the next we'll cover guiding the journey. We'll go through the final transcript side of things and how student communication, I just want to stress, is a very huge component for the success of the final transcript. We'll share best practices. I'll show you a live demo on the student side, also on the admin side. I'll show you what the student experience looks like. Many of you may have seen it firsthand. Some, this will be the first time. And so we'll go how students can actually submit that final transcript request and how you, the administrator, can process those requests. And then next we'll dive into Infinite Campus, since there are specific steps that you do need to take in order to release those transcripts to Parchment. We'll go through those steps, and Tony will run us through that. And then finally, we'll discuss some tools, resources, and best practices and make sure you're equipped for success. And we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So with that said, just a quick intro. I'm Monica, Customer Success Manager at Parchment, and I support KDE schools and districts. And this is Tony. He will be representing the Infinite Campus side. He's a senior training specialist, and Tony will guide us through important steps and processes that you'll need to follow prior to releasing those transcripts. So to start, let's go over student communication. So first, we're going to talk about this because this is really, really, really important that we start and stress that communicating with your students, there are two main pieces you want to share with your students as they're preparing for that final transcript request. The first is we want them to go to their Parchment account and initiate that final transcript. And then the second piece is for the students to select hold for grades. This is very important as they're placing their orders. So these will be the two main points you want to get across. So first, you can communicate in person. Be sure to use intercom, the PA system in your school to make any announcements. Encourage your students to drop by your office even, or to meet with them one-on-one. We've even had some schools carve out some times, maybe before an English class, and sit down and say, hey, we just really want to make sure that when you're requesting your final transcript through Parchment, this will take place in the next couple of weeks. Be sure that you select hold for grades. And then we also want to take advantage of digital communication, right? If you can communicate directly with your students via email, text, or maybe the announcement on your website would be great. Those are some great avenues and will help you move through those final transcript requests smoothly. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your website here. One thing I really want to point out, districts that post their custom ordering button on their school's website or on the district website have a really strong Parchment culture. I will show you a little bit more about the ordering button as we move forward. So if you don't have that posted either on your district website or your individual school website, I'll be highlighting that, and always feel free to reach out to me, and I can also spend some one-on-one time and help you get that going. And then just some questions to think about. Do my students know the correct process for requesting a transcript? Is the school website updated so they can easily find this information? And then ultimately, do we have the ability to send a message directly to the student by either email or text message? And if so, what would it say? So I went ahead and drafted just a very simple sample message that you can use as you see fit. Something like, as you prepare for graduation, please make sure to place a final transcript request via Parchment. And then you can go on to say, to place your order request, create your account or log in using the link below. And there you can include your custom order link. And then remind them, when placing these requests, please select hold for grades. And then we'll send the transcripts when those grades are posted. So now we've gotten this message to them in a simple way and covered all of our goals for communicating with the learner, which is, don't forget to place your order and have it held for grades. So throughout our session, I will be highlighting some best practices, but communication is the very big piece of it. Think about how you want to communicate with your students. What is the message that you're trying to send out, and when you will be sending that communication. Okay, so let's go into the student ordering experience. This is what your students will see when they log in and place their order. So this may be a refresher to some of you, and it may be new. And so it's just always good to be prepared to see what they're seeing on their side. So if they come to you with any questions, you can answer those. So here is a sample of the Parchment storefront. Your storefront will be branded with your institution's logo and school name, but here the student can get started with their order, or a third party can submit an order on behalf of someone. The student will see on the left-hand side in green that they can go ahead and place an order here. And then on the right side, ordering on behalf of someone is where maybe a parent, a business, or a student would this has a registration code. They can also click the link that is embedded in this form and it'll take them right in. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. So if they don't have the registration code, they will enter their email address here and our system will look to see if they already have a Parchment account. If they already have a Parchment account created, we will prompt them to enter in their password and also their contact information, and then they will set a password for their account. Once all the required information has been provided and the learner sets a password, they will continue on. They will tell us if they are currently enrolled with your institution, the first year they attended, and then their student ID. And then once they're signed into their account, they have a dashboard here. Here they will see some options of the credentials that are available to them. So in my example, I have the order your transcript. You also might have graduation requests, diplomas, things like that. So the transcript option will be here, and that is where they would want to select to start their order. And then here they're going to choose their destination. Here they will type in the recipient and then hit search. If they are sending to themselves or an individual, they'll select that option. If they're not, they're going to go ahead and then they're going to click I'm sending to myself or another individual. So we will filter through our Parchment network and show them all the recipients that match their search criteria. The Parchment network includes over 8,000 receivers, such as colleges, universities, testing agencies, scholarship agencies, NCAA. So if they do not see their recipient listed, they can always click Enter Your Own, which is at the bottom of this page here, the blue button, and then they can manually enter that recipient information. The student will then have the option to choose the type of delivery method. Most schools do offer the electronic delivery, so we will use that one today. Here we have the next page. This is the item details page. On the left side of the item details page, they will see a drop down and it says, where do you want this sent? And this is well, it'll default to send now. This is really important because this is where your student is going to select hold for grades. I have a custom ordering message here in orange, and I will show you how to select and put that on your own page, but this is something that you will need to add on your own. I think it's great in this example to show when a student gets to this page, there's an alert that says, hey, hold for grades, because they might not see that otherwise and hit send now. So in my example here, I'm communicating with the student and requesting that they select hold for grades and that the transcript be sent at the end of the semester. So you can create any kind of customized message here that we will look at later. And then once they've selected the hold for grades option and submit the request, this order will then show up in the admin site. Finally, at the bottom of the item detail page, the student will be prompted to consent by signing the order. They can do this in the signature box here. They can either touch the screen or use their mouse to add their signature. And in some cases, some high school learners may still need their parent or legal guardian to complete this section. From there, just to kind of show you what they see on their end as they complete their order, they do have an order summary page where they can ensure all of their information is correct. So they have one more chance to take a look at it before they actually send incomplete. Once it is complete, the learner will receive a confirmation, and this will also be emailed to them. So if they have any questions, you can confirm that they received an email, or they can log into their dashboard and check the orders tab up at the top. So the main takeaway when ordering is that students should select hold for grades. This is the option that they want to choose when they're placing that final transcript order. Placing the order on hold for grades means that the transcript will not be released until the final grades for that term are added to their transcript. So next we'll have to take care of our administrators, right? Let's go in to see what the admin side of things looks like. Before anybody has anything in the Q&A that stood out that I could answer?
The only question we have is, does every school have a storefront?
Yes. So you will have a storefront, and I can look at that individually with anyone who would like to take a look. That is the landing page for the school where the orders are placed. Within your admin account, up at the top under settings, if you do have access to settings, you can go under ordering, and there you can see your storefront details.
And that you can customize that a little bit too, right?
You can put your school logo, it's
School
colors.
You know, make it yours. I mean, again, it's about making your students feel like they're at home, and that's something that's easily done through that storefront.
Yes, and I believe I do have something later on that might show a little snippet of it, but we can always go into it later. I can get your information and we can do a one-on-one Zoom call where I can show you where you can find this information and we can set that up. Okay.
That's the only question for now.
Great, thanks. Okay, so if the student selects hold for grades, those orders will automatically come onto your hold queue, your on hold queue here within your to-do list. So here you'll see a list of orders being held, and in the far right column, you'll see the hold reason, which in this case says hold for grades. So you will see the hold for grades listed whenever that option is selected, and then this means that your student followed the instructions and the order will sit in the queue waiting for the grades to be posted. So this is great. They followed the instructions perfect. Sometimes your students aren't going to read the instructions, or they might forget and select the send now option. Maybe they didn't see the communication, right? So you can manually move that order for them. So if the order does not appear in your open orders, and if they've communicated with you and said, hey, Ms. Johnson, I said send now by accident, I didn't select hold for grades. That's not a problem. You can select the pause button here, which is right above transcript there. Click on that and you'll be able to select hold for grades on their behalf. So there is a way to catch this for those students that didn't see the communication or just didn't follow the directions initially, but you still want to make sure that those transcripts are being held for those final grades to be posted. So you can do that here for them. So now let's talk about those notifications that you get within the Parchment system from time to time to confirm grades. You can find any notifications in the top right-hand corner of your screen. You might see something like our records indicate that the grades for such and such semester are due to be updated, or our records indicate that the grades for the first semester are due to be posted. So in that case, you want to do that first. So you'll want to make sure that you confirm any older semesters. Do that now. This helps you see which holds can be cleared out and which ones still need to wait. So for example, if you confirm grades for the first semester or the first term, any orders on hold for those grades will be processed and moved to your open orders tab. Orders still waiting on the second term grades will stay on hold until you complete those. So here is where you can kind of control that. This is where you can tell us if grades have or have not been posted. So if you say, yes, grades have been posted, that means that transcripts are ready to go out. You'll be able to select the option here, yes, and then hit continue.
You mind me jumping into, because I think Jenny made a really good point, and I was looking for a spot, so let's go ahead and mention it. When we talk about, posting grades for final transcripts, if it's your, if you're just talking about your first semester grades, it's just about grades. But when you're talking about your final transcripts in Kentucky, it's your grades. It's the fact that you posted your graduation codes. So you should have the graduation code on there, and you should have your graduation dates. Until all three things are done, you should not release your transcripts, because the universities cannot accept that as final unless they've got the fact that they've actually got the graduation status, the graduation date, and they've got their senior courses and grades included with the rest of their years of high school.
That's right. That's a great point. And I know Tony will mention, that preparation before releasing those into Parchment. So it's a very, very great point. So this action will move all of the orders being held for grades for your term you are confirming from the on hold queue, and then it'll just move them right over for you to the open orders tab for processing. So that's going to happen automatically if you select yes. And then you then will want to enter an expected date for grades to be posted. So maybe at the end of May, for example. If you select no and hit connect and hit continue, you'll get a new notification on the date that you provided. So the notification will go away for now, and then on that particular day you selected, you'll get a notification at that time. So now you might be asking yourself, where does all this information get pulled from? Can I adjust it from the beginning so I don't have to select yes or no? You absolutely can. Under settings, and then under general, and then under the grading system, you can go ahead and you can manage all of this information here. So just know that that's there for you to customize per your school. So just as we wrap up this section, you've now confirmed that grades are posted in Parchment. So the held orders have now been released, and they are now showing in the open orders queue. At this point, you can go ahead and perform the Infinite Campus final transcript release, which Tony will cover a bit later. So once those transcripts have been released, let's fast forward, from Infinite Campus into Parchment system, they'll automatically match the uploaded transcripts to the open orders. So this will ensure that everything processes smoothly. This means that the most recent version of the transcript has been added to the order. So you can click Process Order here and send that along. If you click on File Date, which is embedded there, it's blue verbiage, you will be able to open the transcripts and kind of do a double check here. You can spot check it, make sure everything looks good prior to processing the order. So just know that you also have another opportunity to do a spot check here. A best practice is to ensure final grades are posted prior to performing the Infinite Campus release. So again, once the orders move from the on hold tab to the open orders tab in Parchment, you can then perform the transcript release, and then the transcript will automatically match to the open orders. So I know you're probably thinking we're going through this pretty fast. We're moving through a lot of information. I want you to know that we have sent out some resources for you. These can also be found within the Parchment.com admin system. You can find confirming for grades, place an order on hold. These are quick bite videos. They're great. They'll walk you through it in less than 3 minutes. I've also shared these out with the team here, so you should have access to those very soon. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the invite students button that you might see pop up from time to time. This is designed to alert you that you may want to send out registration codes. So this is just another way to assist students with account setup in Parchment. It is by no means the way you need to do it. It is just another option. And what you'll want to do is you'll go into your Learners tab. You'll be able to then see email registration codes, the blue button there. And so you'll go ahead and you will invite any, you can choose the unregistered group. You can look at class of 2025, so you can customize again here before you email those out. This will populate a list of unregistered learners from the group that you selected. Here you can select or deselect who you want that to go to, and you can also print these registration codes out. We have some schools print them out and take them into the classes and hand them out that way as well. So again, it's not the way you need to do it, but it's just another option. And so just keep that in mind that these are optional, but this will be the email that they get. So if you do choose to email, your learners will get an email that looks like this, and then they just click on the button and then the account creation process begins. So it is a little bit easier and swifter on their end, which makes it more convenient. And if you're not using these right now, I'm happy to sit down and go through them with you one-on-one. So let's talk about settings. We'll go in here. Not everybody might have access to the settings. I just want to call that out up front. You will be able to access the settings if you have site admin rights. And so if you feel like that's something that you want to talk to your site administrator about, you can do that and they can grant you access. So some of the things that you will see when you do your the ordering tab. This is great because this is where you can find your custom ordering link, which you can place on your website, or the custom ordering button. This is nice to display on your website. It's easy to find. Each school has their own URL for their own specific storefront. And this is exactly where you would find that information to add that. So it is a best practice to add the button or link to your email as well. I have a lot of counselors, registrars that do that, and they find this a very effective and convenient way to communicate with those that, you know, reach out and say, what's the process? And they can say, you can simply just click on the button here in my signature. So I can also show you how to do that, but you'll just go ahead and you could just copy the information here on your left and then embed it in. Just as an example, I wanted to show you here, the district is directing students on their website to click on ordering buttons for the respective schools. So the buttons are hyperlinked and they'll go directly straight to that individual school URL. And just a very quick and easy way for folks to find what they're looking for. So now let's talk about messaging. Again, within the settings tab under ordering, you have the option to add 2 types of custom messages. These are fully customizable messages that you can change at any point throughout the year. This is where you can communicate with your students regarding the hold for grades option we looked at earlier. And then when adding a message, you want to be specific and concise. Really call out what those key points are that you're trying to come across, such as holding for grades. We've actually had institutions insert dates here and really specific. They might say, if you're ordering prior to this date, or choose hold for grades if you're ordering after this date, or, you know, select send now. So you really can customize these here. And now you have many more options. Here you can see all of the messages that are currently set up for your institution. So they are held in here. You don't need to come in and create them each time. You can turn them off, on, delete them, customize them. And then you can also, you know, add new ones. And so here you have an option of highlighting them, which is what we looked at earlier, the orange bar that said, or it's like an alert for hold for grades. Or you can just print a notice, that would be a nice little gray bar, or a simple text. So you have some options there. And then from there, you can choose where you would like this displayed. So you can have it on your order product details page. You can have it, the learner can see it, the third party can see it. You have a lot of options here on who you want to select for your audience, and then what the message is there at the top. And then it's just easy as simply pressing save if you're ready, or canceling and going back and adjusting what you started. So from there, this is what it will look like. The welcome message will appear on the storefront, and then the ordering messages will appear on the actual ordering page. And then really quick, this is so important, a reminder to add your out of office messaging during the summer break. And you can set the dates you will be gone, at processing time. If there's going to be any delays, anything important that you think the requester should know, you can place that here as a way to communicate with them while you're away. So I'm going to hand it over to Tony now, who's going to walk us through the steps through Infinite Campus. Tony?
Perfect. Thank you, Monica. So welcome, everybody. I am here to really walk you through the workflow process to ensure that those posted grades that are in Infinite Campus are actually making it over to Parchment. So there are quite a few steps that you might want to verify. Some of these are going to be a set it and forget it. type of thing. Some of them are going to be annual processes that you either need to roll forward or just verify that are correct. But this is kind of a full list of all of those items. I tried to include in here the pathways in the new navigation because I know some people are still getting used to that as well. So this is where all the tools live for everything as well. So we're going to go through slide by slide and talk through what needs to be in place in order to release those records properly. So the first one is going to be making sure that the schools that are transmitting, releasing to Parchment have a CEEB number. And this can be found in school and district settings underneath your schools category and school information. Really, it's just putting in that number and saving it. This is one of those set it and forget it things because this really should not be changing from year to year. Once we've verified that you have that, I kind of like to stay within similar areas of campus when I'm going through trainings. So we're still going to stay within that school and district settings area. This next one, we're going to look at district items, specifically the grade level definitions. So in order to get records to release properly, there's a whole bunch of PESC codes that need to be defined and mapped so that it can transmit your transcripted grades properly. And grade level definitions is going to be one of them. This is a fairly easy process. A lot of those grade level definitions will already be in there for you. But if you do not have that PESC grade, it won't transmit for that particular grade level. Right. So in this example that we're seeing here, 12th grade has not been mapped. So all you have to do is actually select that particular grade level. And then down towards the bottom here, we're going to see the PESC grade for the mapping. So we would just select 12th grade at that point, and then we'll say click Update PESC grade to save it. This also is going to be one of those kind of set it and forget it type things because this really shouldn't be changing from year to year for you as well. Now we're going to move on to the system settings area, and there's a couple things that need to be set up here. And I'm going to start with code defining. So this will be found in system settings under data defining tools and code defining. And I think Monica brought up a great point from the Parchment side, you know, depending on your access or your tool rights, what I'm going to call them in campus, you may or may not see these things depending on your role. So all of this access is going to be tool rights driven. So probably for most, it's going to be a select few people actually on these types of mappings. Now, code defining is something that you will have to verify every year because it is going to be mapped to specific years. For example, we have our diploma type here, and again, you can see PESC. So anytime we see that acronym, we know it's going to be related to e-transcripts. But in here, you need to make sure that your diploma values, your diploma types are being mapped. It's already been mentioned a couple of times in order to get those records to release and for universities to be able to accept them, that diploma type is something that has to be on the released record. And we have to have a mapping from the Infinite Campus code to that Parchment code, right? So that's essentially what this is doing. It's saying here are all the values that we have in Infinite Campus. This is what it maps to in Parchment so that when we post those diplomas, we have the correct diploma type and it actually is sending. Now, like I said, this is a year-to-year process for this specific tool, but we do try and make it easy for you by copying from a previous year. Right. So if you are in the 25-26 school year now and you want to copy over those mappings from 24-25, you will be able to do so pretty easily. But remember, this is something that has to be in place in order to release the records properly, particularly for those posted graduation records. Another really important part, still staying in the system settings area, is setting up the electronic release. So this is actually what's going to connect Infinite Campus to Parchment to be able to release those e-transcripts. So again, in here, just following our pathways, we're going to be in System Settings, under System Preferences, and specifically Electronic Release Setup. For any of those out there who have set up OneRoster connections, this is going to be very similar to that. So we're going to create an outgoing connection by clicking that big green button in the lower left corner of the screen. And that's going to prompt us to set up the electronic release. So you are going to need to gather some information from Parchment, like the servers, as well as the consumer keys, things like that, so that you can actually get the two systems connected. All right. Moving on right along, we're about halfway through our Infinite Campus setup. So number 5, this is one for roll tier. You do have to have a report template for each transcripts. So that can be found in System Settings, under System Preferences, and Report Setup. This is kind of where you would go to create your report card templates or your transcript templates or your schedule templates, right? But we do have a type specifically for e-transcript. And this does need to be set up because when we use our batch tool later to actually submit and then release the records, it has to be tied to an e-transcript template type. So you create this, options you want to send, whether weighted GPAs, unweighted GPAs, both. Do you need class ranks on there? Do you want a credit summary? So on and so forth. Just choose the options that you need to send. Now, with this tool, this is one of those things that you do need to review every year. You may not need to necessarily create a new template every year, but you will at the very least need to roll forward that template from one calendar to the next. So when we usually go through our scheduling series and we talk about rolling forward calendars, rolling forward other information, reports is one of them because we want to have the same report card template, the same schedule template from year to year. So just make sure that you do have that e-transcript template that gets rolled forward using our reports roll forward tool. Now we're going to move into grading and standards as far as kind of where these areas are. And this is why I included the pathways for all of them, because we're kind of touching on a lot of different areas of Infinite Campus. Credit types. Super important that you have that PESC name associated to your various credit types. So for example, here you can see I have my high school credit group. And I've selected English Language Arts, so that is what the credit type that displays on a printed transcript. Well, we need to make sure that that's mapped to something that can transmit via e-transcripts to Parchment. So when you click that drop-down menu of PESC name, we can see right at the top there, we have English Language Arts and Literature. So you're going to match your credit types to the one that most closely defines what it should be transmitting to in Parchment. This is also going to be one of those kind of set it and forget it type things, because once you have your credits groups established and your PESC names updated, you really shouldn't be coming in here every year and changing this. And this is a district-wide setting. If you are going to be transmitting any sort of assessments, so think of like the ACT or any other certificate tests or assessments that need to actually be printed on a transcript or transmitted. There is a little bit of setup within our assessment center to make sure that those are included as part of the releasing records. So for here, we're going to be going into student information, the assessment administration toolset, specifically the assessment center. And I'm going to use the ACT as an example. Now we would need to go through the subtests. Again, it depends on what you are transmitting. If you just need the composite, we only need to set this up on that composite score. If I need individual scores, you will need to go into these subtests to make sure that they are set up properly. So once that structure is there, you can click on where it says ACT Composite, or whatever the name of your assessment is, and you're going to have to scroll down a little bit until you find Display Settings. And within here, you're going to find another mapping area called PESC Test, and then there's also another one for PESC Subtest, to make sure that you are linking these correctly, right? So in this case, the overall test would be ACT, and then my subtest is going to be the composite score. So again, if I needed to have ACT English score or ACT Science score or ACT Math score, those would all be set up individually within those child tests. Aside from having these set up here, the record does also need to be associated to the student. So whether you are importing those records and attaching them to students or manually placing them, it does have to be part of the student's assessment record in order for it actually to release. All right. This was mentioned a couple times through the presentation already, but there are a couple key elements that really have to be in place prior to releasing the records, right? Because it was mentioned that if we don't have things like the diploma date or the diploma type, colleges and universities can't really accept a lot of these records, right? So you are going to have to go through the process of making sure that the graduation records are updated for students, particularly diploma date, diploma type, and I believe NGA cohort year as well. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can actually enter these records. You could do it individually on students by going to Student Information, General, Graduation, and just type in the information. There is also the enrollment end batch wizard. So at the end of your school year, when you're going to end date enrollments, you could do it for 12th graders and actually enter in the graduation information, including the date and type. And then the third option would be if you're using academic planning. So if you have graduation programs assigned to students and you are going to be using the course plan administration tool to post diplomas based on students completing their requirements, any one of those three methods will get the records that you need here on the graduation tab. So it's really up to you and your process of how you're going through that, right? But the important part is we have to have a diploma date, we have to have a diploma type, and that NGA cohort end year, which should automatically populate when the student enters 9th grade for the first time. Prior to trying to submit and release your records, you want to verify that students have transcript records. So this is going back to what Monica was saying about kind of that order of operations, making sure that you have actually posted transcript records to the students. So if you have teachers that have a window and say they're finalizing grades the week after school ends, and then you're going to be running that transcript post wizard to create the transcripts the week after that, make sure that you're following that process, because we need to actually have those records posted to this transcript table in order to release them. We're kind of getting into the final steps here from the Infinite Campus side. So this is where that e-transcript template comes into play. So we're going to use the e-transcript batch tool to actually submit our students' transcripts in batch. Notice you do have to select a specific report, and this is why we had to do the report setup piece earlier. In this case, chances are I'm probably just doing this for my 12th grade students, but you have some alternate filters here that you could do. If you have an 11th grader that's completed everything, by all means, select 11th grade. And then ultimately, what you're going to want to do is select the Submit to Batch option at the bottom of the screen. So this way, it is running the process of actually creating all those records, and then there's going to be one final step to actually submit this and release over to Parchment. Once that process has been completed of submitting to batch, you're going to see those row records here in that same screen. But then over on the very far right, you're going to have the electronic release. once the status is complete, and you will click release here. You'll select the vendor. So this is where that electronic release setup piece came in. You'll select whatever name you selected, in this case, Parchment, right? And click OK. That's when it's actually going to release those records over to Parchment. All right. And Monica, I think I'm going to turn it back to you at this point.
All right, thanks, Tony. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some tools for success and go over some best practices. So let me go ahead and get this slide. Okay, there we go. Whoop, we went backwards somehow. One second here. Okay, so we do have a lot of resources to share with you. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to show you the slides. They will be sent to you and you can access the links, but the admins have great resources, 3-minute videos, as well as the learners. So if you want to share videos, with your students, they can also sit down and learn that way too. Tony has shared some Infinite Campus resources, and you can also find more on parchment.com. I do want to show you one great resource. Let me get over here real quick, is the actual graduation exit form. This is another great way to communicate with your student. This is just an example. You can customize this in any way if you'd like, but you can add questions like, did you order your final transcript? Have you updated your email address in Parchment? Things like that. So we will share this with you as well. Another best practice is to talk to your students about updating their email address. You want to be sure that once they graduate, they have a secondary email address in there, because most likely they will be losing access to the email address that you had provided them from their school. So you want to make sure that they're logged in and they get that taken care of. Okay. And this is how they can do that. They can just simply type in their email address, and then they will go ahead and input the next screen there. They'll just go ahead and put the secondary email address and just add. And they can come in and change this anytime once they've updated that, if they have different ones down the road. So we have time for some Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the group. This wraps up our webinar. Again, thank you for your time. We know that K-12 wears a lot of hats and you do so much for students. So thanks for taking the time to be with us today. But again, love to open it up to see if there's any questions that Tony or I can answer for you.
There are not any questions right now, but if Michelle is still on, seriously still on, I know that she put a lot of resources out there for counselors, and I don't know if she wanted to say anything about that. I'd welcome her if she wanted to jump on. But there is some details out there using your resources that you've shared with us that we've actually put out there for counselors to access there, and another area too. So same stuff, so get it either place, whatever's easier for you.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Yes, I do have all the resources that Monica has shared on the school counselor's Google Classroom. And if you are not a member of that Google Classroom, you can send me an email and I can give you the invite code. And I will go grab that now and I can put it in the Q&A for those that want to go on and join without emailing me.
That'd be great. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate all the work that you've done to help promote transcripts and processes to the high school counselors across the state. So thank you for that. I am not seeing any additional questions coming in. I think that means we can probably wrap up, unless I'm missing something. Mine's kind of acting okay. There will be recording of this. This will be available in the KDE Media portal. That's the reason we did it this way, so everybody can have access to this. If you've learned something today and you think, oh, I wish so-and-so could have, grab that link and send it to your peers that might not have been able to join us today. We understand this is a very busy time of the year. There was no good time to have this in May. And I just want to thank all of you for participating and taking your valuable time to make sure you know what you need to know to make it a good experience for your students. So I also want to thank others that participated in this and helped us put this on. Michael Mock from Infinite Campus is on. We've got Daniel Bradley from KDE, as well as Linda Burton and Ryan Adhoc, who are always in the background. We've got the Beth Gravett and others that are from that team that are always great hosts for us. So we want to thank everybody that was involved. We definitely want to thank Monica, and we want to thank for Parchment and all their work towards helping us out. That is so important to us, and we've got a great partnership, as well as the partnership we have with Infinite Campus. So thanks to all that participated today, and thanks for all of you that helped us put this on today. That's it. So we'll wrap up now, unless Tony or Monica have anything else to add.
I don't have anything else to add, Dee Dee. Thank you.
All right.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time.